Welcome back to What is Your Money Really For podcast. I am Jenna Bradford and I have Tyler Braun with me today. And we're going to talk about a very specific topic, which I think is a different way to think about retirement and or the future. So we get the question of, can I retire? Can I do this? Can I do that? Or how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I love the emotional intelligence behind the question, Tyler, that you flip it towards, which is really we want to figure out is how much is enough, and that's associated towards the goal setting that you do. So I want to turn it over to you, Tyler, and I would love for you to explain when a client comes in and asks those questions, how you emotionally tie in the goals and the situation that's currently there and ask how much is enough. And especially in today's economy, right? Retiring today
Yeah.
was different than 5 years ago, and it's probably going to be a little bit different in the next 5 years as well. So how do you respond back to that? What does that mean?
Well, that's a loaded question, Jenna. The emotion piece, like you said, is the key, right? So when a client is saying, "Can I retire?" or "How much do I need to retire?" We're ingrained. Think about it. When you start working, the first thing that a mentor or maybe a senior employee tells you is, save, put X amount into your 401k, get the company match, do all
The
these
same
different.
person say the same thing.
Exactly. So get all of these different vehicles working for you, but everybody is so different when they get to that distribution option, right? When they get closer to
Yeah.
retirement on what their goals are, what they're looking to achieve. Someone, right, might want to work till they're 75, right? And they're just passionate about what they do. Other people might want to stop working at 55. Well, so what you need to actually take a step back and ask yourself is, what are my goals? What am I looking to achieve? And then how much is enough? And I have clients come to me all the time. They're, "Oh, my friend told me I need $2 million to retire, or I need $4 million to retire." Every person's different. Let me tell you, I've got clients that have huge pensions that pay out on a monthly basis. They don't need as much in assets to retire because they can fall back on those guaranteed income sources. So this is a twofold question that I always tell clients to think about. Number one, how much income are you looking for in retirement? And the best way to address that question is, I always ask clients, how much money do you take home, meaning get paid after taxes, take home hits your checking account every 2 weeks? So if a
People know the
client,
answer to that? Do
well,
they know the
most
answer?
do. And if they don't,
Okay.
everyone has technology now where they can log in online and go ahead and see what that net amount is. That's what you're living off of. That's what you need to replace, because your lifestyle has been created around that cash flow. So that's the first stepping stone. From there, then we're backing into what assets you have that can help fill up that bucket. And then we can find what the shortfall is. When we look at that, what we find is, for a lot of people, right, they may be at their goal or well past their goal. And then it's a different
Okay.
conversation, because now it's the emotion that's tied to retirement, but more so the emotion that's tied to change. People do not like change. And you think about how many people identify themselves with their career. You go to a party and you're having
I
dinner
do.
with people, right? And the first question a stranger will ask you is, "What do you do?" Right? It's how you identify yourself. So that's difficult for people that are looking to retire is, "I've done this my whole life. Well, what do I do?" "Oh, I'm retired." Okay, that's okay to have that as an identity, right? I'm a grandfather. I'm a volunteer. You name it, you can identify with different things, but that's change. That's hard. Where I
Yeah.
go with how much is enough is for those people that continue to work because they can't envision a bigger future than what they have right now. And that is really, really difficult. So I'll give you an
Okay.
example. I have a client, husband and wife. I've worked with them for a long, long time. They would come into the meeting and they're very well, well positioned, did a great job saving. And I would ask them, I would say, what are you guys looking forward to? What do you have coming up? And she would list off, "I'm going to go on this trip. I'm going to do this and this and this."
Love
But
that.
she would never include him, meaning he would never say, "Well, I'm going on these trips." So I finally stopped and I said, "Well, I got to ask it." I said, "Why aren't you
Yeah.
going?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't want to go. It's too expensive. You hear this all the time. It costs too much." And
Yep.
I said, "What do you do for fun?" And he said, "Well, I watch my money." Right. And I said, that is an emotional roller coaster. And what a terrible way to go through a stressful life Just if
Yeah.
the market's up, he's having a good day. If the market's down, he's having a bad day. Right.
Oh, it's
So
horrible.
we meet about 6 weeks later, we get together, and I find
Mhm.
out that she actually was just diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So here, everything shifts. She passed away
Holy
within
shit.
6 months. And he had this moment where he said, I missed out on all of these opportunities with my wife because I didn't want to spend the money that I had just so I could collect it, watch it, and count it. So you think about that. When you ask the question, how much is enough? They had enough. They actually had more than enough. We went through the process and ended up giving it to kids and charities because he didn't even want to look at that money anymore because he viewed it as what he called
Really?
blood money, right? It was money
Yeah.
for things that he didn't get to do with his deceased spouse. So it's very difficult. So
Hmm.
when you ask yourself how much is enough, really it's what are you working towards? Can I achieve that
Hmm.
goal? And then from there, right, actually taking that step and doing the
Yeah.
things that you've worked so hard for, right? It's just unwinding that conversation of how much is enough for me to hit my goals. What am I looking to do beyond that portion, right? Whether it's retire, if the income's
Mhm.
taken care of, check, right? Now what are we doing? How much is enough? Okay, how much is enough for the kids? Do I save more here or do I go on that trip, right? It's answering that question for each facet. And what that does is it
Mhm.
really helps reduce the emotional mindset behind those decisions. So then you can look more clearly going forward versus just saying, oh, I'm spending way too much money, right? Well, if you have the
Right.
money and you're enjoying it, that's totally different than spending, right? I'm enjoying the
Yeah.
money that you've worked really hard
That's good
for.
mindset. Absolutely, absolutely. And it really ties into the name of our podcast, right? What is your money really for? What are you doing with the money that you're earning? Unlike this client that you had, which I love that story. It's a great lesson as well, is that you do work towards something, but you gotta have an
Yeah,
end goal or you gotta have end something that
right.
you can envision. So I believe this is kind of cute, but I believe that a lot of our clients also call us therapists too, because we
Correct.
help them understand what they're actually doing instead of just having that savings mindset in place.
Yep.
So I think it's important to always remember. And so the second part of this I want to ask is when you're going to like how much is enough? How do you take into factor inflation, right? Because
Mhm.
obviously it's going to go up and down. It's going to go ultimately it's going to go up over time. But what happens next when having these conversations, and how do you
Well,
include that?
yeah, I mean, we have core strategies that we take our clients through, Jenna, that,
Okay.
we're breaking down a portion of their assets to generate income. And we talk about, an ever increasing income, right? So depending on what
Mhm.
types of investments you're looking at, there's different vehicles that can have an ever increasing dividend, right? Where we track that. And they're called dividend aristocrats. It's a fancy term
Mhm.
for companies that have increased a dividend for, at least 25 consecutive years. So there's ways to
Okay.
insulate income, right? That's the key word, insulate your income so you know that's
Mhm.
covered, but you also want assets continuing to accumulate and grow in the background, right? I always tell
Right.
clients you never want to be pulling all your income off your total portfolio because there's nothing reinvesting in the background to grow for the future. And what we're doing is as the market goes up, we're taking gains and we're shifting them into the more conservative assets that might give you a pay raise. Or if you're saying, hey, I
Yep.
want to go on that vacation, right? I've always wanted to take the family to Disney World. It's going to be $50,000. Let's say the market goes crazy in the first quarter to the positive and you're up
Mhm.
75,000 in your account. Hey, boom, let's take 50,000 off the table. You're playing with house money, shift it over to the money
Yeah.
market. Now you just paid to have your family go on vacation like you've always wanted to, and you didn't have to liquidate something at a low. So it's really being very fluid with your portfolio and understanding the taxation and the strategies behind it, but using the positives of the market to allow you to capture those long-term gains, which feed into that inflation concept. So the cost of everything is just going to keep going up over time, right? You date it back to when they started tracking the CPI and so forth. It just continues to climb higher, but
Mhm.
so do the assets, right? And it's just
Right.
putting those together and having a strategy behind it, and we have that with our clients to overcome inflation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's a great reminder as well, is that as we continue to grow economically or within the current economic situation, there's always strategies to have our
Yeah.
assets work for us, always strategies. And as long as it's working towards the goals or solutions that you have. So thank you so much for talking about that, Tyler. I do appreciate that. It's always good to remind yourself that you're doing more than just savings,
Yeah.
right? You're doing more than just saving. You're working towards something. So I appreciate you. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.